AMD just announced their Ryzen 9000 desktop CPUs and their next-gen APUs. Things are pretty wild here, but I'm going to go over all of it. And if you're interested in picking anything up that I discuss here, I'll have affiliate links down in the description below for when they're released. It doesn't cost you anything more, and it helps the channel out. Welcome everyone to Gamer Melt. Okay, it's news time, and first up for today, as you can see, AMD made a name change, and the leaks were exactly right on this, and you'll notice as we go through these that they were right on other things as well. And the reason I bring this up is really just because I've noticed lately that people are starting to really crap on PC hardware leakers, with most claiming things like, all leakers do is say next gen is faster than current gen, implying that what's leaked is just general knowledge and not at all inside information. But I've been doing this for years now at this point, and pretty much every time I go over some new release, I have to tell my viewers that, hey, if you followed this channel, you already know pretty much everything. In fact, this is one of the few times that we don't already know just about all the specs. Now, that's not to say I'm the one doing the leaks. I'm not trying to take credit or anything like that. This channel is mostly just me going over my favorite PC hardware stories for that week, but I have learned who's accurate most of the time and who isn't. Either way, the point is that this is one of those many times that the leaks were spot on, and it clearly wasn't a guess. In fact, if you remember, it was originally leaked to be Ryzen AI 100 series, but AMD wanted to one-up Intel's upcoming Ultra 200 series. Either way, with all of that aside, sorry for that tangent there, as you can see, it's now called Ryzen AI 300 series. And as we've sort of gone over, they are upping the AI performance of this all the way up to 50 tops. Not only that, but, well, you can see this is the NPU engine XDNA 2 based on Zen 5, and then of course RDNA 3.5 integrated GPU. Moving on, they kind of actually go over this new name. You can see, okay, the brand is Ryzen AI, AMD Ryzen AI, the brand level is 9HX, then the series is 3, they sort of need to move these over a bit, but the series is 3 and the SKU number is 70. And when it comes to the CPUs or APUs that they're announcing right now, we have the Ryzen AI 9 HX370 and the Ryzen AI 9 365. And yes, you sort of already know how I feel about the whole Ryzen AI thing. It is annoying to say the least. They are flat out naming it AI. It just feels way too on the nose, but regardless, here are the CPUs, and as you can see, the 370 is a 12-core, 24-thread CPU with up to 5.1 GHz max boost, 36 megabytes of cache, 50 TOPS NPU, and it comes with the new Radeon 890M, once again based on RDNA 3.5. Then we have the Ryzen AI 9 365. This is a 10-core, 20-thread CPU with up to 5 GHz max boost, 34 megabytes of cache, 50 TOPS NPU, and a Radeon 880M. Moving on really quickly while going over the XDNA 2 architecture, we can see they are claiming 5 times compute capacity in this NPU and up to 2 times power efficiency. When it comes to performance, this is one that's pretty wild. They are already now including Qualcomm Snapdragon X Elite. Once again, really showing just how wild this is that ARM-based CPUs are now making it into Windows. They obviously also include the Apple M4, but this is Windows-based, a complete direct competitor for x86. Either way, then we have Intel Lunar Lake. This is what they anticipate, 45. So you can see they are really pushing the AI performance here. Who knows if PC local-based AI is really going to take off, but of course, we shall see. Though if it doesn't, that's really bad news for AMD because they literally name their processors after it. Now, I'm not saying general AI in the cloud may go away. That really doesn't seem to be a fad or anything like that. It does seem like it is actually set to almost completely change everything for everyone. We're talking ChatGPT, stuff like that, but that's all cloud-based, not stuff that you need to actually do on your own PC. Regardless, they are jumping in headfirst for this. And also, as you can see, they kind of go over the difference between 8-bit, 16-bit, or block FP16, which is what their NPU is. Then we have kind of a curious one. They actually compared the AI9 HX370 to the Apple M3 rather than the M4. I'm not sure if maybe they didn't get it in time to kind of add these tests to it, but of course it should be compared to Apple's newest M4. Then we have Intel's Core Ultra 185H, and here you can see does all right in productivity, but in video editing, it completely crushes it. Multitasking and 3D rendering just flat out completely crushes it. This right here is, of course, though, like in office suites, a 4% really actually isn't that bad because for the most part, they don't use multi-threading. They don't use a ton of cores, let's put it that way. But things like Cinebench completely crushes it. Then we move over to gaming, and of course, this is iGPU versus iGPU. AMD was already in the lead here, but now that they've made it even better with RDNA 3.5, completely crushes Intel here. And this brings me to AMD's next-gen desktop CPUs, Ryzen 9000. And the reason why they aren't changing the name for these, at least for now, is because they really aren't focusing on AI too much for their desktop parts. And of course, this one is Granite Ridge, and they are claiming some pretty big stuff when it comes to Zen 5, up to 2 times instruction bandwidth, 2 times data bandwidth, and 2 times, so they do at least mention it, AI performance, and this is talking AI and AVX 512 throughput. But of course, things like instruction bandwidth and stuff like that only go so far. Well, what about performance? Well, Zen 5 gets a 16% IPC uplift when compared to Zen 4, and that is a bigger uplift from Zen 3 to Zen 4. Obviously, that one only got, I believe it was a 13% IPC uplift, but now we're looking at 16. And of course, because IPC is a per application uplift, that 16% is just the average here, with some things going quite a bit higher. Cinebench R23, 17%, Geekbench 6, 19%, Blender 23%, Geekbench 5.4, 35%, but then you have Far Cry 10%. This really just kind of seems to be a very random assortment of benchmarks. League of Legends, it got a 21% boost there. Pretty wild, I do have to admit. But yeah, 16% overall. And this brings us to our first CPU, the Ryzen 9 9950X. And right off the bat, you're going to start noticing that the IPC, while fairly impressive, is just about all Ryzen 9000 is bringing to the table. Here, it's 16 cores, 32 threads, same as last time, and up to 5.7 gigahertz boost, same as last time. That's right, Ryzen 9000 doesn't really have any significant uplift when it comes to clocks. Though, in just a second, you're going to see that TDP is very impressive here. And either way, before we get to that though, the combined L2 and L3 cache for the 9950X is 80 megabytes. And really quickly, you will notice, although this is pretty much entirely IPC uplift, but still pretty impressive, compared to the 14900K, it really seems to crush it. In benchmarks here, we're looking at Cinebench R24, we're talking 21% faster, so that is seriously impressive. Handbrake 55% faster, Blender 56% faster, and at least according to these benchmarks, of course, I always suggest waiting for third-party benchmarks, but from what they're showing here, it really does seem like it's taken the lead in gaming yet again, and that's without 3D V-cache. So this is still fairly impressive. Moving on, you can see they do talk AI acceleration versus the 14900K, but we're talking only 20% faster AI, though 100% faster graphics bandwidth, at least according to them, because these PCI Express 5.0 lanes, when using direct-to-processor storage and graphics simultaneously. Either way, let's get to the rest of these processors. As you can see, AMD is announcing 4 new CPUs, 9950X, 9900X, 9700X, and 9600X. And all of these are coming July of this year. Once again, the leaks were spot on about that as well. Now, while I did mention that the 9950X didn't go up in clocks, some of them did. I have some of the changes here. The 9700X and 9600X went up a max of 100 megahertz, so really nothing to write home here, but there is a couple things that are pretty impressive. For example, the 9900X went from 170 watts down to 120 watts, and both of these, so it did that while maintaining the same max boost clock. And then the 9700, 9600X both go from 105 watts down to 65 watts, and these actually got a clock boost. So this is still very impressive from AMD, at least when it comes to performance per watt. Moving on, we are now going to start talking the socket really quickly, not too much to discuss here, although once again, leaks were right about this one as well. But first up, as you can see, so far, AMD has said that Zen 5 is set to extend up to 2025. Well, now they're extending that through 2027 plus. With that said, a little bit of a caveat here. As you can see, they've extended this one because they are still releasing AM4 based processors. So that likely doesn't mean that AM6 won't come until 2027 plus. They're probably just meaning AM6 will come, but AM5 won't be dead, just like AM4 hasn't been dead since the release of AM5. And of course, that really is awesome. That's definitely one great thing about going with AMD's socket versus Intel's. And speaking of sockets, motherboards, things like that, yeah, I told you that the leaks were right here as well. AMD is skipping the 700 series motherboards and moving straight to the 800 series. And of course, if you follow this channel, to which if you don't, make sure you subscribe to GamerMeld for all the latest PC hardware news. But if you did see that, you know that I've already discussed a leak claiming that they were going to do this. Well, they in fact did. And here you can actually see some of the kind of new things that they're doing here. For one, USB 4.0 will be standard on all x870 and x870E motherboards, PCI Express Gen 5 on graphics and NVMe on all x870, x870E motherboards, and higher expo memory clock support. So yeah, not a huge update here, but still they are going to have new motherboards, and of course we'll have to see how expensive those are going to be, but they do at least get a little bit of a bonus over the current 600 series. And lastly, we are actually moving back to AM4 yet again. AMD is releasing Ryzen 5000 XT series update. They are actually releasing a Ryzen 9 5900 XT and Ryzen 7 5800 XT. The 5900 XT, of course, 16 cores, 32 threads, up to 4.8 gigahertz, while the Ryzen 7 5800 XT 8 core 16 thread also up to 4.8 gigahertz max boost. And when it comes to performance of these two, the 5900 XT, you can see looks like it's right on par in gaming with the 13700K. Obviously, depending on price, will really depend on how great of a deal that is, but it's not bad at all. Then the 5800 XT, this one is right on par with the 13600KF. And of course, these, just like the others, are coming July of this year. And like I said, I will have affiliate links to these down in the description below. Doesn't cost you anything more, and it helps the channel out. So while that does it for today, are you impressed with Ryzen 9000? And what do you think about that Ryzen AI name change? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you liked the video, please make sure to subscribe and give it a thumbs up. And as always, have a great day.